So good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Marceau. I'm Vice President and General Counsel at CJA, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to this very important seminar. Though I wish we would be speaking about things that are more fun, like getting the school supplies and rushing to different stores to get the books for your kids. Unfortunately, we have to tackle a very important issue. So many of us, so many of you are facing real challenges. We're facing anti-Semitism in schools, a broader issue of intolerance, and we know how important it is to be equipped with the right tool, with the knowledge and the confidence to advocate for our kids who deserve our support and deserve us to be there for us. CJA is working regionally as well as nationally to address anti-Semitism in school at its source. We have successfully advocated for mandatory Holocaust education, and most recently in BC, where this fall, all grade 10 students will begin learning about the Holocaust with community partners like the Vancouver Holocaust Education Center, helping guide the implementation of this important program. Through our legal task force, we are supporting students and families facing discrimination, including a precedent-setting case on behalf of a Jewish elementary student who endured anti-Semitism bullying and assault after the attack of October 7th. We continue to push for greater accountability from school boards and administration for stronger standards for reporting and responding to hate and clarity in equity policies so that anti-Semitism cannot be dismissed or mischaracterized. But this work, and there's a lot of people working on this, cannot be done by organizations alone. It requires all of us. It requires parents, grandparents, educators, as well as allies working together, because only together can we really make a difference. So that's why tonight's gathering is so important. You will hear not only from a panel of parents, educators, and experts bringing their insights and strategies, but you'll also be pointed to resources that you can use right away at the beginning of the school year. So whether it's attending your local school board and parent council meetings to ensure accountability, learning how to report incidents of anti-Semitism, including CJA's Report Hate tool, connecting with your local CJA or federation when issues arise, accessing free legal support through the legal task force, or using guides like Navigating Anti-Semitism in K-12 Schools Toolkit, there are practical supports available to every family. We received hundreds of questions ahead of this town hall, and thank you for everybody who wrote and sent them. And that speaks to the importance of coming together this evening. We are very fortunate to be guided through this conversation by my friend, Naomi Parness. Naomi is a steadfast advocate for the Jewish community. She is a gifted communicator, and I've met my share, and she has spent her career amplifying important issues. So with that, let's begin by welcoming Naomi and our panel. Naomi, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Richard. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to welcome everyone who's joined us from across the country this evening, as well as those who couldn't be here live but will be watching the recording. The overwhelming interest in tonight's webinar speaks to just how timely and important this topic is, and it reflects the emotions many of us are experiencing, the challenges we're confronting, and the growing need for real, thoughtful solutions. Although I'm involved in this professionally, this is also deeply personal for me. I am the grandchild of Holocaust survivors, and I have two sons in public school. Both will be in high school as of next week. My youngest is starting next week. So, it's hard to believe for all of us that we're here. We're a week away in most cases across the country from heading back to school and from the start of a new school year. But this is unlike the start of school years many of us have experienced. We are going into this school year with a lot of concerns. And now, while tonight's conversation will focus on the K-12 experience, we know that many questions were submitted about life on university campuses. We won't have time to address that tonight, but we absolutely recognize it is critical. It's an emotionally charged topic, and it's one that may warrant a dedicated conversation in the near future. This evening, we're going to be focusing on navigating the return to school in a time when anti-Semitism is unfortunately, as Richard mentioned, a very real concern for many students, parents, grandparents, and educators. Many people have remarked how sad it is we need to hold a webinar like this. And while that's true, It's sobering. I think it's also a testament to the resilience of our community. And as you'll hear from our incredible panel, even in the face of deeply concerning realities, there are positive stories, actionable strategies, and a growing network of support available to all of you. And that's where our focus needs to be tonight. We received over 100 thoughtful questions in advance of this webinar, as Richard mentioned, so we reviewed every one of them. We've worked to incorporate many into the panel discussion. Each speaker will share their remarks, and then we'll move into a Q&A segment to address some of the remaining questions. So if we don't get to your question, we apologize, but please continue to send in questions, and hopefully we can answer those tonight, and if not, in the coming weeks. So with that, I'm excited to introduce you to our outstanding panel tonight. I'm going to start off with, in an order of who's speaking, Robert Brim. Robert is joining us in Toronto. He's a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, an S.D. Clark Professor of Sociology Emeritus from the University of Toronto. He has published more than 200 scholarly works and received multiple awards for his publications and teaching. His most recent publication, which many of you may have heard about in the news, based on a survey commissioned by the Special Envoy on Holocaust Remembrance and Combating Antisemitism, is a survey on anti-Semitism in Ontario's K-12 schools. So Robert will be talking to us about that. We also have joining us tonight, Janaea Peters. She's joining us from Vancouver. She is a learning support teacher in the Vancouver School District. She's the vice president of the Curriculum Support Group, Holocaust and Anti-Semitism Educators of BC, and is the founder and lead of the grassroots group BC Teachers Against Anti-Semitism. She is the K-12 committee chair of CASC, Combating Anti-Semitism Steering Committee, with the Jewish Federation of Vancouver. Kelly Hebert is joining us from Winnipeg. He has been a high school history teacher at Westwood Collegiate for the past 18 years. Kelly specializes in history of the Americas, Slavic studies, Eastern European history, genocide, and Holocaust studies. He's been studying the Holocaust for over 24 years with a focus on helping teachers develop the best teaching practices in secondary schools. In 2021-22, he was the recipient of the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence in Canadian History through the documentary Truth Against Distortion. We have Julie Christoph joining us from Montreal tonight. She's a parent advocate who turned her personal experience into community action. She's a marketing research consultant and a parent to 2 children, one of whom was born with a rare neurological disease. Julie currently serves as a board member for GEM and the Nelly Philanthropy Foundation. She's the chair of the Montreal Jewish Genetic Disease Fund and sits as parent commissioner for special education services with the English Montreal School Board. And finally, rounding out our panel, we're pleased to have Dr. Jessica Schulman with us tonight from Ottawa. Jessica is a psychologist with the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, where she provides mental health support and psychoeducational assessment services to students of all ages. In July 2024, she traveled to Israel with a group of educators to explore strategies for combating rising anti-Semitism in North America. So thank you again to our incredible panel who's here tonight. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to talk, and then again, we'll get to questions. I want to start off with Robert, who is going to talk to us about this really intense, and it brought up a lot of very important points, Robert, this study that you did. So tell us a little bit about what you found in this study that was just recently released. You there? Do we have Robert's audio?
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Naomi. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the survey that I conducted. I collected nearly 800 reports of anti-Semitic incidents from Jewish parents across Ontario, and I want to tell you specifically about 6 things that they taught me. First, the overwhelming majority of anti-Semitic incidents occur in areas with the largest Jewish population: Toronto, Ottawa, and York Region, which is just north of the city of Toronto. However, incidents occur in small centers too. The mother of a grade 12 student living in a town with a population of 12,000, including just 50 Jews, related the following incident. And I'm going to quote from what she wrote in the survey questionnaire. "My child was in class during a group work period. While the teacher was speaking to another student, a male student accosted my daughter. He grabbed her arm, pulled up her sleeve, and loudly yelled, "Where's your number? Show us your number." When my child pulled her arm away and asked to be left alone, the student grabbed her again and loudly proclaimed in front of everyone, "Come on, let's take a walk to the showers." This incident is similar to many that took place in Ontario. Specifically, more than 40% of all reported incidents, which to me is a remarkable percentage, were Nazi-inspired, involving Jewish students being greeted with a Sieg Heil salute, told that Hitler should have finished the job, finding a swastika scrawled on their desk, and the like. Third, schools refused in 49% of cases to act on the reports that were made by students or their parents about anti-Semitic incidents. Initially, the small town girl whom I mentioned earlier her school refused to do anything. It was finally motivated to expel the perpetrator for 3 months, only after the child's mother threatened a lawsuit and a human rights complaint. I think there's something very instructive about this incident. Fourth point I want to make. Fewer than 60% of incidents that parents considered anti-Semitic referred to the Israel-Hamas war. They involved Jewish school children being accused of genocide, killing babies, being racists, and so on. It was not the Israeli government that was accused of these acts. It was not Jews in general. It was the children themselves who were accused of being responsible for these acts. Let's turn for a moment to the children themselves and their emotional reactions to the accusations, the incidents, the accosting that occurred. 3 emotional reactions on the part of children who experienced anti-Semitism were reported in roughly equal proportion. First of all, anger. Secondly, fear of returning to school and worry about being isolated and not losing non-Jewish friends. The girl who was asked to show her number was so traumatized she couldn't return to school for a couple months. And sixth, 16% of parents transferred or are planning to transfer their children to safer schools, 39% of them to Jewish schools. While these percentages are high, they're not higher for 2 reasons. First, 1/5 of Ontario's Jews live in places without a Jewish high school, and 1/10 live in places without any Jewish school. And second, Ontario doesn't subsidize Jewish schools like British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and Quebec do. So many families cannot afford the high tuition fees. Naomi, how much time do I have left?
Took myself off mute there. You have a few more. You can talk for another minute.
Okay, so I have time for a 7th point, which I'm only partially prepared to deliver. Unfortunately, the schools, I think throughout the country, but certainly in Ontario, are doing a very poor job of reporting incidents that occur. Only a handful of incidents are reported by the Toronto District School Board, for instance, or the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. And we don't have an accurate account. Nobody has ever tried to maintain a record of all incidents. But I do believe, on the basis of the survey that I conducted, that the situation is, in broad outline, not very different from what I would like to show you now. These statistics concern hate crimes in Canada. Usually when people talk about hate crimes or report hate crimes in Canada, we get raw numbers, the number of hate crimes, the absolute number of hate crimes that have occurred. This is a poor way of reporting it, it seems to me. Rather, we should be looking at the hate crimes per 100,000 members of any group that we're interested in. And when we do that, and the reason I'm saying that is because this indicates the victimization of the group, the degree to which the victimization is taking place. Here I'm showing you a graph of hate crimes committed between 2014 and 2024 to Muslims, Blacks, and Jews. And it shows that for Muslims, These are the three groups experiencing the highest absolute number of hate crimes in the country. For Muslims, the number of hate crimes per 100,000 members of the Muslim group in Canada averages something in the order of a dozen incidents per 100,000. For Black Canadians, the number in recent years has numbered approximately 50 incidents per 100,000 Black people. For Jews, the number is 723. In 2024, there were 273. Yes, 273 incidents for every 100,000 Jews. Another way of stating this is that Jews are impacted by hate crimes 5 times more than Blacks are, and 25 times more than Muslims are. I believe that in broad outline, if we had data on anti-Semitic incidents in school, it would look similar to this graph. Jews are being insulted, harassed, attacked, intimidated, accosted, and so on in very large numbers. And it's important, therefore, that we develop strategies to deal with this very serious issue. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Robert. So it's sobering, and to see the numbers and to see it there is very upsetting. And Janaea is going to join us now and talk about the perspective of being a teacher amidst all of this. An interesting perspective for sure, and one that's very different than obviously being a student. But being an educator in a school right now is definitely a challenge. So Janaea, talk to us about what that's been like for you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I want to talk about 2 things in the few minutes that I have. First of all, I know we have other parents who are going to be speaking about their experiences and their tools and their strategies that they're using. I really want to highlight what we're doing here in Vancouver. We've developed a K-12 parent toolkit. Richard mentioned it in his opening remarks. It is on the Jewish Federation of Vancouver website, and I believe you will all be getting copies of all these links after. But really what it does is it empowers parents to have agency, have ownership over what's going on with their kids in schools. I'm the parent of 3 kids, 1 graduated and 2 still in public school. And it gives you the tools, the scripting, the language to handle situations that come up. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. We'll talk more about this in the Q&A. Parents, you have a voice. And I would argue you have more of a voice than teachers do. And I really welcome you to go through the toolkit. It's actually based on whatever situation would come up, not necessarily anti-Semitism. If your child has special needs, if they have a learning disability, if they have an IEP, this is how you go through the steps, how you escalate, how you go above, you keep going. And if you are being stonewalled, or if you're not satisfied with the outcome, that is when you contact organizations like CEJA, like any of the legal helplines that are out there that are supporting the Jewish community right now. That's when you contact your local federation. If you are being stonewalled, there are options once you've exhausted all the possibilities that you can do as a parent. So I really wanted to highlight that. Now, if we have any teachers, support staff, any staff of school boards, there are steps you can take as well. For example, in terms of, I would say most people working in educational systems are unionized. And there might be other people on this call, parents who work in other kinds of unionized environments. You have a voice, you have a vote. Get involved. Now, I know for me, I actually got involved in my union local. because of this work. And I have actually found it incredibly rewarding above and beyond dealing with anti-Semitism. So I got involved because of that, but now I'm in it because I'm a teacher and I am worried about working and learning conditions. I'm worried about the state of public education. I'm worried about the defunding of public education. So above and beyond anti-Semitism, I actually love being active in my union much more than I thought I would. The way to combat anti-Semitism in our unions is to work within those unions. So looking at becoming a shop steward, or I know in BC we call them staff reps, getting elected to your local executives. If you don't want to do that, go to your meetings, go to your union meetings. Keep an eye out on motions that are coming out. Rally allies and fellow Jewish educators and like-minded educators to go and vote for or against motions that involve us, that speak for us, sometimes without our permission. In terms of, I've talked about union spaces, workspaces. So we are also encountering anti-Semitism, maybe from students, maybe from colleagues, maybe from administrators.
Mhm.
There are ways to deal with that as well, whether by talking with your colleagues, going to your union, which they are bound to represent you. That is the agreement that they have to live by. Um, and then going to administrators, letting them know how you're feeling. Are you feeling safe? Are you feeling supported? So I invite you to look at the toolkit, and please, my contact information will be posted. Please do reach out.
I know it's a very big challenge for a lot of educators to go to people at this point. I know a lot of educators feel like they can't speak to their administrators, and that's part of the problem. But I think, as you said, the reminder is you have to speak out, or it's not documented. It can't be dealt with unless you speak out. And I think the importance, as you said, of being a part of the union, of being a part of boards, of being a part of anything. We'll talk after about parent involvement, but being on parent council, I mean, that is key, is having your voice in there so that you can be a part of the discussion. And I think those are great points. So thank you so much, Janaea, for that. We are going to get to some of this in the question and answer period, but some really important points there. Kelly, we're going to go to you next in Winnipeg. And Kelly comes from a very interesting perspective, a teacher, but also not Jewish. So, Kelly, what's that been like for you over the last few years?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be here on this panel. And I guess start by acknowledging that, yes, I am not Jewish, but I am an ally, and that distinction matters to me.
And to us. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It's my honor and pleasure to be a part of that. Because allyship isn't just about standing beside, it's about stepping up, speaking out, and doing the work even when it's uncomfortable. And it is difficult. It is not easy, but it's the right thing to do. Everybody matters. Everybody should be heard. And part of what I do is stand beside and speak out and support all people. But in this case, it's the Jewish people because they are often neglected, silenced, and omitted from conversations. I'll speak a little bit about what I've been working on here in Manitoba in particular. So over the past 10 months, I've had the privilege of working with Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning in developing a resource guide that supports educators in teaching and learning about the Jewish people, anti-Judaism, anti-Semitism, and the Holocaust or Shoah, depending on how you teach it, in Manitoba schools, specifically in grades 6, 9, and 11 social studies, although I recommend this be interdisciplinary. And the colleagues that I've been working with have been unbelievable. They're not Jewish either. They're very open-minded, wanting to learn more. A lot of it is just it's ignorance and not knowing. So to me, it's been a journey of listening, learning, and amplifying Jewish voices, especially in spaces where they've been historically excluded or silenced. As someone who's worked within the education system, I've seen firsthand this gap. Teachers unsure of how to approach these topics, students left without context, and communities grappling with rising hate. For instance, even just today, earlier on, I showed the documentary that I made with my students in 2020, 2022 during COVID with a Holocaust survivor and her family who hadn't seen it yet, and also a mother of someone who was murdered by Hamas on October 7th, and having both of them in the same room, it was very emotional for me because I made this film with students to address anti-Semitism, to learn from the past, to build a better future through learning about the Holocaust and the Shoah and the Jewish people, not just the doom and gloom. And it really got me thinking about, did this film do what I wanted it to do? And clearly we see today that we have to step up and do more. So it's about humanity. It's about understanding and acknowledging each other's humanity. It's about equipping educators with the confidence to teach difficult truths and holding them accountable when they don't. It's about creating classrooms where all students feel safe to ask questions, challenge prejudice, and understand the consequences of silence. This is our job as educators and in the school system. This is what I signed up to do when I became a teacher. Recent national surveys, and I'm sure many of you have heard these, have revealed troubling gaps in Holocaust awareness among Canadians, which I would say is in correlation with anti-Semitism. A study conducted by the Azrieli Foundation and the Claims Conference found, and here are just a few stats from it, 54% of Canadian adults did not know that 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust. Among millennials, 62% were unaware of this fact, and 52% could not name a single concentration camp or ghetto. Alarmingly, a 2024 survey done by the Association of Canadian Studies found that 18% of Canadians aged 18 to 24, so now we're looking at university ages, agreed with this statement, and it shocks me till this day. I think the Holocaust was exaggerated. And that troubles me, not only as an educator, but in our society as a whole. These findings underscore the urgency of the work that I've been doing. When historical truth is diluted, denied, prejudice festers, and when young people lack foundational knowledge, they're more vulnerable to misinformation and hate, which we see all over social media today, even online news media. This is very problematic. Anti-Semitism isn't just a historical problem, it's a present-day reality, as I'm probably preaching to the choir here. And schools are not immune to this, from casual jokes as we heard, and harassment and bullying, to jokes coded with language, from vandalism to exclusion. Anti-Semitism shows up in ways that are often dismissed, ignored, or misunderstood. And that's why Holocaust education must go beyond the dates and the facts. It must equip students and educators to recognize anti-Semitism in all its forms and respond with clarity and conviction, not optional. That's why it's a mandate in many of these provinces. As an ally who is deeply committed to this work, I spent the last several months listening to Jewish students, parents, and educators, and community members at large. Their stories are heartbreaking and urgent. Many feel unsafe, unheard, or unsupported in their own schools. That's unacceptable, and that has to change. So how do we confront this? I have a few points here, and then I'll round off with a quote from one of my heroes, Emmanuel Ringelblum, and then I'll be quiet. So point number one, it starts with education. Teachers must understand the historical roots of anti-Semitism and how it evolves. Holocaust education provides the foundation, but it must be paired with contemporary context that we see today. Educators need access to ongoing high-quality professional development in working with the Jewish community and Jewish organizations that have agency. It requires accountability. Schools must have clear policies for addressing anti-Semitic incidents, and educators must be held responsible for creating inclusive environments. When we say every child matters, no matter where you come from or where you go. And that's something we need to keep at heart when we talk about why we are educators. Schools should create safe, anonymous channels for students and families to report concerns about anti-Semitism. It requires administrators, we might have some in the audience, superintendents, to ensure that curriculum expectations are being followed with integrity. And I'm speaking more to Holocaust education or in the Shoah, that if it is mandated, it needs to be taught. Teachers need to be trained, and they need to feel supported in this. It's not to create an us versus them. It's not to polarize us more. It's to look at each other's humanity and acknowledge that we exist together, that we can coexist, and we must coexist. And the last point here that I'll make mention that it involves community. Parents, administrators, and students all play a role in building a culture of respect and vigilance. Everybody has a role to play in this. If one of these groups is not participating or supporting, it can lead into a domino effect, and it can crash a school culture. And any school worth a grain of salt that takes pride in what they do should be looking at this and asking questions about how can we make every single person feel supported, acknowledged, and heard and seen. And then the last thing I would love to just put in here. So in the words of Emanuel Ringelblum, who risked everything to preserve the truth from inside the Warsaw Ghetto, I quote, "Let the world read and know. His call was not just to document history, but to ensure it is never forgotten, never distorted, and never ignored. We must never forget the history, and we must never ignore our students and communities, no matter what their backgrounds may be. All children matter, no matter where they come from." Full stop.
Well, and I'm reading the Q&A here, and everyone's saying, you know, I mean, there's a lot of questions coming in, so hopefully we're gonna have time to get to those, but they're saying this is amazing. Can I share this recording with my child's school? Because it's almost sounds like a utopia. I mean, we all wish that that's how it would be, and unfortunately, that is not the case, which is why we're here tonight. So hopefully people will take your advice. That would be wonderful, Kelly, and we just wish we had more allies and educators like you. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, feel free to
Uh,
reach out as well. You know, I have no problem with people contacting me for ideas or
Yeah.
to talk. I'm here for everyone.
Thank you, Kelly. So I want to get to the parent part of this because it is such a struggle for parents right now. And Julie, you've been dealing with this, and I think what you represent to a lot of people on this call is what we're all feeling. You're a parent. You're, as you know, we talked, you know, before off camera, normal. Like you're just like all of us, but you got involved. And I think that is sort of what all of us sometimes. Some people are too shy to do it. They're scared to do it, but you got involved. So talk to us a little bit about that and why it's important to be involved.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with you all, like these brainiacs on the panel. Pretty amazing, very inspired. As you said, I'm just a middle-aged parent. I am a daughter of survivors, a proud Jew, and I'm an advocate for people of different needs to be treated equally, and all people to be treated equally. I entered this world more around special education, special needs. But I mentioned middle-aged intentionally. When it comes to fighting anti-Semitism, I, as a relative Altakaker, an older person, I'm not going to win or even advance on social media, right? I don't live in it. I don't get it, aside from being alarmed by what I see. So building on Janaea's words and everybody's words, where can I make a difference? Where can we as parents make a difference? One, we need to be sitting around the tables where decisions are being made, where budgets are being adopted, where pedagogy is examined, and where policies are born. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can mean giving up one night a month of Netflix to join your school governing board. It can also mean volunteering to make latkes with the parent committee, or do lunch duty, or be on the literacy committee, things that you're passionate about improving your kids' school experience anyways. It's important to get to know the other parents, have access to administrators. This is much more the case in high school, where you drop off your kid and you leave. You need to walk the halls, ask questions, contribute knowledge, approve or challenge budgets and policies. If you're not on the ground, you don't see that, and it's a missed opportunity. Aside from holding a space as a Jewish parent, you can also contribute to many other aspects of your child's school life. And certainly, if suggestions like not lighting the menorah this year comes up because of safety concerns or something, or you see political signs that are against the rules, you can say like, whoa, right? I'm here and I'm going to say something. I sit on this committee, etc. And you see things. And I'm very honored to be serving on the English Montreal School Board, where the IRA definition of anti-Semitism was adopted, and where Holocaust education and genocide education is required and mandated. This didn't happen in a void. It happened before my time on council, but it certainly happened because there were people around the table who cared and talked about it and brought evidence and made that happen. And it now gives us a lot of of tools to combat anti-Semitism in the school board. Now, we've heard from many of my colleagues about toolkits and pedagogy related to anti-Semitism, and we absolutely need those clear guidelines that allow administrators and educators to make unbiased decisions. And those guidelines need to be applied and disseminated properly. Again, this is where sitting around the table at your school or district or board or whatever you want to call your groups is critical. Our voices, our questions, our contribution is critical. 2, do it joyfully, not ragefully, right? Barry Weiss and others have said, Barry Weiss, who's a journalist, we are not just on this world to fight anti-Semitism, we are on this world to live as Jews. This conversation is not about taking sides in a conflict across the world. It's about making sure that all kids, Jewish kids, Israeli kids, non-Jewish kids, everybody is included, being treated with the same brush, with the same rules. I see comments on social media all the time. Again, I get very alarmed. When it comes to a Jewish person being harassed, people will comment, well, it's not so bad given what's going on in Gaza, right? Has nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza. Our kids are not in Gaza, right? Or baby killers or genociders or whatever they're being called as per Robert's report. It's crazy. That is the very definition of racism, and people who are anti-racism should really take note. This cannot happen in our schools. We have to be models for our children and insist that all children have the same rights. We have to stand up tall. Now, you guys don't see me, but I'm 4'10", so not a lot of people describe me as tall, but I am tall. And we have to yell from the rooftops that the law, the policies be applied equally. And it doesn't have to be rageful. It could be around a table when something comes up and you go, really? All right. It could be very small things.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing the law applied equally everywhere. So I have a few very easy to-dos for the parents in the audience. 1, when school starts, which is starting for most of us next week, pay attention to the annual general meetings or parent committee meetings or whatever they're called in your school, and run to get onto these committees, run to get onto governing board, or a committee that interests you. If you don't want to run, attend the meetings and ask questions from the audience. If you're not a parent but want to support students, go to council meetings. If it's in you, run to be a school commissioner. You don't have to be a parent. There are so many opportunities as non-TikTok fighters that as kind of older middle-agers with not a lot of time on our hands, we're the right people to be in those seats. Number 2, swallow your rage and live Jewishly. I'm angry all the time, but most of the people out there in the world are not engaged in this conversation 24/7 like we are. And most don't know or believe the CBC, right? Which is problematic, or the New York Times or whoever. We have to be gentle on ourselves and on the people who were asking to go to bat for us. 3, and this, I didn't talk to this gentleman before I got on this call, but I've been following this Toronto lawyer named Adam Hummel, and he just came out with something called a Manifesto for Jewish Empowerment in Canada. He writes a Substack. We'll put the link to a video that he recently did, and it was so inspiring, and he is so clear and practical, and he speaks about other different easy and hard ways so that we as parents feel less helpless and more powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. And I want to get to Jessica. I know I wish we could talk for hours, but unfortunately we don't have that much time tonight.
And I could.
And we all could. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of content to talk about. So we're going to get to Jessica. I know Kelly also has to go. So for those who want, he has another event, a very important one in the Jewish community there. So Kelly, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And for people who want to contact Kelly and ask questions, you can. We see a lot of questions coming up in the Q&A, so we're going to try to get to them. And there are a lot of links that have also been posted, so you can take a look at the links. But Jessica, I think you're coming in with a very important topic tonight, which is just how to actually deal with all of this as parents, as grandparents, as educators, mentally, I don't think any of us are really taking very good care of ourselves right now. So mentally, how do we deal with everything that's happening right now?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And first, want to start by saying thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in such an important conversation and with these very amazing co-panelists. So I'll situate myself a little bit because I come from this discussion from a number of different angles. So I'm a school psychologist, a clinical psychologist by training. So I have that background knowledge on, having difficult conversations and the emotional repercussions of those. But also, problem solving is my love language. So being able to, identify, okay, when things are going wrong, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to work through this together? I'm also working in a public school board. So I have a very interesting perspective on, the stressors and, how educators are feeling, both the Jewish educators, but, educators in the system in general. I'm also married to a school administrator. So he's in a leadership position in our public school board. So I have some insight into what our leaders are dealing with as well. And then finally, most importantly, I'm the parent of 2 children who I'm raising Jewishly, and they are both in public school. My son is one of maybe 4 Jewish students at his school. My daughter is now in middle school, so maybe there's 10 Jewish students. I'm kidding, but a little more, but they're in the minority without a doubt. So, I think my main point is for us as parents to be proactive in starting these conversations or continuing these conversations at the school level rather than reactive. So first of all, for most of us on this call, school hasn't yet started. We're looking, a week away from the beginning of the school year. That being said, in the buildings, the educators are there. The principals are there, your teachers are there. They're starting to get ready. They're starting to see their emails. And so I think it's a great opportunity now this week to reach out, to start that conversation at the school level. The fact that you're here tonight engaging in this discussion, asking these questions, is showing that you are thinking proactively. So take this opportunity. Ask to meet with the teacher, meet with your administrator, principal or vice principal, a guidance counselor, and talk. Say, the reality of your experience as a family. We're feeling very nervous. This is the context that we're living in our current Canadian society. And we want to talk about this. We want to know how we can partner with you, how we can collaborate with you, the leader of our school, in addressing some of the concerns that we have. How are you, as the leader, going to respond proactively if and when a difficult situation arises, if my child encounters an anti-Semitic act or statement? We want to understand, who do we reach out to? How do we do that? Who's the best person in what way? The other piece is that, we want to, as I said, elicit the participation, the collaboration ahead of time. We also want to talk about, similar to what Kelly was mentioning, that, these are the leaders of our public school systems. And in those positions of leadership, we are expecting them to respond with integrity. And sometimes acting in a way that is consistent with integrity is not easy. It's not fun. It's not fast. It takes time, but it's still something, it's a value that we're going to be holding our leaders to. And I think beginning those conversations and finding out, many school boards, mine included, already have mechanisms and processes and documents in place to address hatred, anti-Semitism, any kind of difficult situation in the school. So for an example, there's the anti-hate toolkit. It's available online. It's something that can be discussed with educators and leaders. We also have a Jewish equity coach in our school board who works very closely with a Muslim student success leader, and they can do workshops with classrooms, with students. They can do restorative practices in schools on the ground. And so it's important to find out, what is my district doing? What is my school board doing? What are some of the mechanisms that I can call upon if and when, you know, I'm faced with a very difficult situation? As a person who works in schools and is married to somebody who is a leader in schools, I know that they're very busy. They have a lot going on. Sometimes we have to be patient. You know, for us, it's urgent. And for them, it should be urgent as well. But sometimes we need to, you know, give them an hour or half a day or a day to respond, and trust that they will. And if they don't, we you know, again, come back and hold them accountable.
I think that's really interesting. I just realized that because this is something we discussed off when we were all meeting before this, but this is so close to all of us, but everyone else has a whole entire, like, people who are not involved in this have a life outside of this, and we forget that sometimes. So I think that's a really important point, Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think 99% of the time it's not, I don't care. It's, I have about
Other
99
things.
other balls in the air.
Yeah.
So I will get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're having difficult conversations about hatred, about anti-Semitism with our children, as adults, you know, we have big emotions coming to those conversations. So I think, you know, thinking about some very difficult conversations that I've had with my own kids, you know, I remember a few years ago, my daughter came to me with an interpersonal situation, something that happened at school, and I just wasn't ready for it. It was too soon in my mind. And I really had to sort of, you know, do some self-talk and remind myself, okay, just take a beat, take a breath. This is really big. This is scary, this is upsetting, but the way that I respond, you know, if I'm mindful and thoughtful in how I respond to what she's bringing me, you know, which was like massive vulnerability, is really going to have an effect on whether she decides to come to me again in the future with big things.
Right.
Big emotions, challenging situations. So sometimes, you know, even though, you know, we want to scream and yell and, you know, rage because that's what we're feeling inside, you know, if I lose my potatoes, she is not going to want to come to me again.
Yeah.
And you know, we are the adults, so we have to, you know, be that clear water. We have to be that calm voice. We have to be their safety net and their foundation.
Such great tips. Thank you so much, Jessica, for all this. I want to try and get to some questions because I don't want to run out of time before we get to this. We have a lot of questions in the Q&A, but as mentioned, we got hundreds of questions. And one of the main questions that that keeps coming up is about APR. So I want to bring Richard back into this conversation. Richard, we have a number of questions that came up live tonight as we were talking, but we had a question from Tammy from Thornhill. And she said, how do we avoid accusations of APR? What is the most current effort to manage the introduction of APR? A number of questions on the chat here about what the latest is with anti-Palestinian racism. So do you want to go through a little bit about CJA's, you know, talk a little bit about APR and respond to some of these questions? And then Jessica, we're going to get to some other questions that were asked to you as well.
So Naomi, thank you for this. I understand that there's a lot of interest and rightly so. And I will try to be brief, but hopefully some of our moderators will be able to put some resources into the chat because APR, anti-Palestinian racism, is the new Zionism is racism 2024-2025 version. It is an attempt to trafe the majority of Jews who identified and support the existence of the state of Israel, of the Jewish state in their ancestral homeland. It is the intellectual framework that our enemies, let's be clear, there are enemies, are using against Jewish identity in Canada. So the first thing to do is to be aware of the problems that come with that concept. Moderator, please put in the document that 10 major concerns with the concept of anti-Palestinian racism into the chat. That's the first thing. The second thing is, as our enemies are going on an all-out assault using this, we have to push back, and that means pushing back everywhere. That means pushing back at the school board level. And you have a voice there, and we talked about this all evening. If you are a teacher, some teaching unions are trying to push that within the school system. So get engaged with the unions. There's a group called the Canadian Jewish Labor Committee that is very active. Happy to put you in touch with those people. 3, we are looking at legal options, and in fact, we are doing a seminar on APR for Canadian lawyers from coast to coast. Because it is, again, as I said, a very important issue, because they're twisting what basically they're trying to say is that if you support the state of Israel, the existence of the state of Israel, if you identify one way or another with Israel and Zionism, 93% of Canadian Jews are Zionists, that would make you inherently racist, and that is not a narrative that we should accept. This language of settler colonialism BS should be fought. So the battle of ideas is important. And Naomi, I'll close with this: get engaged, get informed. We will inform you. We will give you the resources to do that, and maybe putting it out there if there's an interest in having for this group a town hall on the concept itself. Maybe we should explore that. People, let us know if you think that's a good idea. Maybe my colleagues here will kill me for suggesting it, but I thought about it, seeing this the interest that
questions
this group is getting. Thank you.
Yeah, because there are a lot. Another question from Shauna from Toronto was, how will CJA support Jewish educators as they're targeted by the board? And there are a lot of questions that have come up live tonight about, it's there's a lot of talk about support, but a lot of people don't feel supported. That's the problem.
So there are lots of problems. So the first thing to do is contact us. There in the webinar chats, there are different addresses depending on where you are in Canada, because the problems are different in different areas. We at CJA are staffing up and making K-12 in campus, but that's for another discussion. At the very top priorities of our work, because this is where people are vulnerable. This is where our children go, and they are our most precious, the most precious people in our lives. So it is our priority. There's an issue, you reach out to us. If it's a legal issue, there's also a legal task force I mentioned at the beginning. Reach out to us. We have lawyers, both on staff and volunteer lawyers, who are eager to help and to push back against this thing.
And I want to take note. I just want to mention a few things. One, I spoke to someone from a board earlier who called me, and they just wanted to mention, and it has sort of been mentioned, but if your board has a Jewish heritage group or affinity group, very important to speak to them, get involved. And one of the main points that they said was the board can't act if they don't know. So as much as some people feel worried to speak up. This person who I was speaking to earlier said there should never be a worry about speaking up. In some cases, you can remain anonymous, but either way, CJA can't know, the board can't know, your principal can't know, your school, nobody knows unless you speak up about it. So they can't.
And Naomi, on this point, I was a member of parliament for 9 years. I can tell you that when you get emails, when you get phone calls, when you get people to push, at some point you got to act. So there's a lot of cynicism out there saying, well, there's nothing I can do by myself. But if all of us get active, if all of us roll up our sleeves, if all of us call the school boards or the principals or the teachers, it will make a difference. And there used to be a time in Jewish advocacy where we would say, okay, CJA will do the work, B'nai B'rith will do the work, Wiesenthal will do the work, Federation will do the work. This time has passed. Let me be clear. This time has passed. We can have the best volunteer, the best people on our board. We can have the best staffer. that time has passed where people, the grassroots, are allowed not to get engaged. We have to get engaged, all of us, because only that way can we make a difference and make sure that our children in our schools are safe as they have the right to be.
And just wanted to make a note that all the resources that have been discussed tonight are going to be available after the webinar on the website. So for everyone who's been asking in the chat about the resources, they'll all be made available on the website. Janaea, I just want to there's been a lot of questions about the unions and the fact that the unions themselves are sometimes the issue. And they are themselves anti-Semitic. So how do you deal with an anti-Semitic union?
That is a great question and a huge question. So first of all, unions have a duty of representation, and a failure to represent is a very serious claim. I have been in or advised on situations where even if a union rep is, very anti-Zionist, they have to represent Jewish or Zionist teachers. So there's that piece. I want to reiterate asking for help. So contacting Federation in your region, contacting CJA in your region, contacting the legal helpline, the Canadian Jewish Labor Congress or Committee. It's all about asking for help. We teach our kids, our students, about how to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. We need to be okay with it too. So I think that's key. Also, if something is happening in your school, in your classroom, please consider going to your administrator if you are unsafe. And again, I see questions in the chat about administrators aren't listening, they don't know what to do. We have to empower ourselves. I just want to quickly follow up on something Jessica mentioned. Every school board across this country has policies and procedures that should be publicly available on the school district's website, usually under the Board of Education part, the actual elected board. I know for me, at my own district where my kids are, I looked up these policies. What is your anti-racism policy? What is your harassment policy, both for staff and students? And then when I've navigated issues as a mom, as a teacher, I will quote it right back at them. Well, according to Administrative Policy 105, it says here, principal, that you should be contacting your director, your supervisor, filing this report number and doing A, B, and C. Can you please let me know when that's been done and copy me on emails? Ownership. Educate yourselves, teachers, parents, even students, on what is available to you in terms of advocating for yourself.
Great tips. Robert, I know you also have to leave. We thank you again for being here with those numbers. Everything again will be available on the website. We just have a few more questions to get to. I know people, we want to be respectful of people's time tonight. But Julie, there was a question there about getting involved in school activities as a parent. The question was, what tools are there to help parents find their voice and learn how to represent themselves when faced with parents who are trying to silence them?
What tools are available? Listen, there are tools available. Janaea referred to them, Richard referred to them. There are tools within the schools. You speak to the administrators, you speak to the guidance counselors. All of this has been mentioned. But a lot of people are nervous to step up or feel shy. And I'm not going to lie, like putting yourself out there for anything, whether it's getting yourself on a committee, standing up and speaking at a meeting, or going on a date is uncomfortable, right? I think we owe it to our kids to model how we behave in discomfort because, believe me, they're uncomfortable. It's important to get over our imposter syndromes. It's enough, right? And stand up and not let others erase us. We have to yell, "Here I am," as Abraham did to God. See me, don't erase me, and don't rewrite my history, and don't lie. We have to teach our kids that when they see or hear something untoward, they can speak it. And we don't have to do it alone. Like you said, we have CJA, we have B'nai B'rith, we have reporting systems, but we have to do it ourselves and model it for our kids. Because if we don't show them what to do, they're not going to do it either.
Yeah.
And I think we have to keep in mind that every self-help, anything I have seen or heard, they say that our greatest growth happens by pushing past discomfort. It's a catalyst for our own personal development and resilience. We want to create resilient kids. That's what we want for them and for ourselves. And I want to say, like, very quickly that, I'm not exceptional. I don't have any advocacy training. I'm not a lawyer or politician. I'm just doing what Jewish mothers do, right? I nudge, I nag a bit, I ask questions, too many, right? If you ask my kids. And the more I do it and the more you do it, the more comfortable it is to say, here I am.
Right.
So everyone who's listening can do it. So I just say, go, just do it. Use the tools, create resilient kids, model well, and step into the here I am.
And speaking of resilient kids, Jessica, so one of the questions that we had from Faye was how can we educate our children about the reality of our environment without scaring them? And I think that's what a lot of people are being faced with right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm all about age appropriate honesty. So I think it's important, in any sort of context, our children understand that there will always be the people that you really like. There will be people that really like you. There will be people that don't like you, and there will be people who we're indifferent about. And that's okay. That's sort of, the way it is, right? That we're not going to get along with everybody. When it crosses a line into anti-Semitism or racism or discrimination, we have to talk about it. So we're looking at who are the people who we can reach out to, we can connect with, who will support us. Who are the helpers and who are our friends and allies? And I think that's something that's really important that we haven't really discussed a whole lot is who are the people in these times. It's easy to sort of say, everybody's against us, but that's really not the case.
No.
For instance, Kelly. And there are lots of people who are with us and who understand what we're going through. And I think it's looking for those people, connecting with those people, finding the people who are our friends, who don't know how to help, and who might need just a little bit more information, a little bit more facts, a little bit more understanding of what makes us Jewish, what we stand for as Jews, right? Life, love, connection, togetherness. I'm wearing my chai, and when people ask, I tell them what it means. It's what makes us Jewish, life and love, and being Jewish is awesome. So I think if we instill that, if we model that for our children, we invite their friends into our homes and show them, what we do that makes us Jewish.
And that was brought up in the questions. Someone here wrote, Oren, I just like to remind everyone to enjoy being Jewish and live Jewishly, not just fight anti-Semitism. Have a beautiful Shabbat meal, light candles, say Kiddush, enjoy the holidays, go to a Torah class. But I think also being involved as a parent, you bring that into the school. And I know some people who wrote comments said, when you're in the school or your children are there being proud of being Jewish, they're teaching their friends about Hanukkah, they're teaching their friends about the holidays that they're celebrating, and that helps as well. I want to get to one with so many questions, and again, we apologize for not getting to all of them, but Jessica, another question for you from Jen from Maple was, how can we support our children, exactly what we're talking about, in displaying their Jewish pride when there's fear of even identifying or being identified as Jewish? So some kids are coming home and saying, this person in class made a comment to me, or I'm afraid of wearing my chai. You're wearing your chai proudly, but I'm wearing my, Magan David proudly. But for some people, it's not as easy. So how do you then talk to your kids about displaying their Jewish pride without fear?
Yeah, and it makes me so sad to hear that kids
Yeah.
are feeling that they can't identify proudly in their you know, the environment where they're supposed to feel safe. And so, yeah, like the way that I have explained it to my children is find those people who are going to support you and explain to them what it means, why it's important. Find the safe adult in your school building. In what way, you know, have that collaborative conversation with them in terms of how are you going to be able to, in your own being, celebrate and recognize your Jewish identity in a way that feels safe for you right now. Right now, it might not be, you know, wearing your Magen David to school, but what is another way that you can carry with you your Jewish pride and your Jewish identity and share it with the people who you know you're safe with?
Thank you all so much. I really wish we had more time, but we will try and get to people's questions offline. And, you know, as Richard said, there might be many more of these webinars. There's so much interest in talking about this. And I think this shows the need to come together as a community right now. We really do need to be there for each other. There is so much support available, and I think it's important that people know that, and a reminder that if you don't speak up about it, then people won't know. You should be telling CJA about the experiences that you're having at school so they can help. There are resources available. I know that from being in this field and from doing the work in the Jewish community. And, you know, when we come together, better things happen. So I think this is a beautiful reminder of the fact that we all really do need to come together right now and be there for each other. So there is support available, and hopefully everyone will make use of that. But I want to have Richard end off the night with just a final few notes. And thank you all.
Thank you,
again.
Naomi. Thank you to panelists, and thank you for the people who were in tonight. I won't repeat Naomi's remarks. Let me just close by being very, as we say in French, tachlis oriented with 8 points. One is go please to actionhub.ca and sign up. Actionhub.ca. It will be put in the webinar chat. So that's one way of getting involved. 2, show up at your school board meetings, get involved in your parent council to make your voice heard. That makes a big difference. 3, get in touch with your regional CJA or your local federation to contact them when there's an issue arising. 4, report anti-Semitism when you see it through police, your community security agency, or CJA's report hate tool. 5, if you or your child needs help, know that free legal assistance is available through the legal task force. Again, it will be in the chat. 6, use the toolkits, sample scripts, and resources provided in the Navigating Anti-Semitism K-12 schools toolkit that was put together by one of our panelists in partnership with the Vancouver Jewish Federation. You will see that also appearing on in the chat. 7, whenever possible, push for training and education so that schools are better equipped to confront anti-Semitism. But one caveat here, oftentimes people have been using or pushing for bogus Jewish groups to give the training, and those people are problematic. And so make sure that the battle, if organizations accept to give anti-Semitism training, the battle is not over, because who trains is important. And the last thing, nothing that we do, nothing that we say will replace the following. We Jews walking with our heads held high as proud Jews, because as one of my heroes put it, Rabbi Sachs, non-Jews respect Jews who respect Judaism. On that note, thank you very much, everybody. Feel free to drop comments for suggestions. Constructive criticism is always welcome, and we thank you for your interest. And together we will make Canada a better place, and we will restore the promise of Canada. Thank you, everybody, and good night.